A lot of people describe themselves as night owls. They'll say they've always been wired at night, that their brain finally comes alive in the evening, or that they simply aren't built to sleep early. Some of that variation is real. Human sleep timing does differ from person to person, but over the years, the term night owl has also come to mean several very different things. And those get blended together in ways that create a lot of confusion, especially for people dealing with insomnia or disturbed sleep. So what I want to do here is slow this down and explain what's actually happening in the body, what's normal variation, and what tends to be a sign that the stress response system is doing more work than it should at night. So first, a quick grounding point. The body doesn't really have a personality when it comes to sleep. It has a timing system, and that timing system is built around circadian rhythms, daily patterns in hormones, body temperature, alertness, digestion, sleep pressure. When we talk about being a morning person or a night person, what we're really talking about is where someone sits on that timing curve. There are real differences there. Some people, they feel better earlier in the day and they get sleepy earlier in the evening, and these people are referred to as larks. Others feel better later and just naturally want to go to bed later, so these people are referred to as owls. But those differences are usually modest. In most healthy adults, the difference between a strong morning type and a strong evening type is about an hour to an hour and a half. It's not the difference between falling asleep at 9 and being up until 3 in the morning. And that's important because the way we talk about night owls now makes it sound like they're biologically nocturnal. And that's not what's happening. That is outside normal variability. A true evening chronotype is typically someone who feels most comfortable going to sleep a bit later, maybe around 10:30 or 11, compared to someone who prefers to be asleep closer to 9. That's within the normal biological range. It still lines up with the body's repair windows. It still allows for restorative sleep. It's not pathological. Where things get confusing is that the word night owl has also become a placeholder for something else entirely. For a lot of people, being awake at night doesn't come from their circadian clock being naturally delayed. It comes from stress physiology carrying over into the evening. This is where cortisol and adrenaline enter the picture. Under normal circumstances, cortisol is highest in the morning and gradually falls throughout the day. By evening, it should be low enough to allow melatonin to rise and the nervous system to shift towards rest. But when someone's been under chronic stress, physical, mental, emotional, you name it, that rhythm can flatten or even invert. Cortisol can stay elevated into the evening, or adrenaline can surge late as the body tries to compensate for the depletion. And that's when people describe getting a second wind. Now that second wind, it often feels like your brain finally clicks on. You could even feel calm, maybe even energy, and it can be very convincing. People will say, well, this is when I finally feel like myself. And I want to pause on that because it matters psychologically as much as it does biologically. Nighttime is quieter. There's fewer demands. There's no emails coming in. No one's asking anything of you. There's less performance pressure. And for a nervous system that's been bracing all day, that reduction in demand, it feels like relief. The body interprets that relief as safety, and safety feels good. So the brain learns to associate nighttime with ease and daytime with strain. That doesn't mean the body's meant to be awake at night. It means night is when the load finally drops. Over time, that pattern can reinforce itself. People start to identify with being a night owl because night is the only time they feel settled. And then we start to develop nighttime habits and behaviors. Then bedtime starts to feel complicated. And if you have daytime stress hormones at night, then lying down doesn't even feel natural. It feels like the moment when everything they held together during the day, it finally shows up. Thoughts get louder, sensations get sharper. The body, which has been running on stress hormone, it doesn't know how to just shut down on command. And this is why forcing sleep, it almost always backfires. Sleep isn't something you can make happen through effort. You can't convince cortisol to drop. You can't reason adrenaline into standing down. Hormones respond to conditions, not instructions. When someone tries to impose a strict bedtime without addressing what's driving nighttime alertness, the body often resists. And that resistance then gets interpreted as failure, which adds another layer of stress. At that point, insomnia isn't just about sleep, it's about the relationship with sleep. Now, another piece that's worth naming here is that not all wakefulness at night is the same. There's a difference between feeling calmly alert and feeling wired and tired. True evening types tend to feel alert in a steady, grounded way. Stress-driven nighttime alertness often comes with tension, restlessness, or a sense of being unable to fully settle even if you're exhausted. The body feels awake, but not rested. And that distinction matters. So what actually helps? The answer is not hacks or tricks or forcing earlier bedtimes overnight. The body's timing system responds to signals, and those signals need to be consistent and gentle. Light exposure in the morning, predictable rhythms around food and activity, reducing the total stress load during the day so the system doesn't stay stuck in the on position at night. Creating evenings that feel calm and safe rather than stimulating, and addressing blood sugar instability or ongoing physiologic stressors that keep that cortisol elevated. None of that works instantly, and that's okay. Circadian systems shift gradually when they feel supported, not challenged. The most important thing I want to leave with you is this. Struggling with sleep does not mean there's something wrong with you as a person, and identifying as a night owl doesn't automatically explain what your body's doing. Sometimes it's a real chronotype difference. Sometimes it's a neuroendocrine system that's been carrying too much for too long. And those are very different situations, and they deserve different approaches. Sleep improves when the system no longer has to stay on guard. And that's a process, not a command.